In 1953, a Rockford, Illinois housewife named Ruth Halloran ran a home of 6 on her husband's $62 a week. She never worked outside the house. She never inherited a dime. Yet behind the flour tin sat a battered coffee can she let no one touch. Her children thought it held buttons. It did not. What was inside it, and what it finally bought, comes at number 1. They ran a home the way a sharp manager runs a business, with habits, not apps. Habits that held families through layoffs and empty jar winters. We traded everyone for convenience and called it progress. Ruth's rules run through everything that follows. Number 16 turns a cabinet of pricey bottles into 3 cheap ingredients. Number 9 is something you throw in the trash every single day. And number 1 is what Ruth kept in that coffee can, the rule that bought back a house. These 20 habits weren't about being cheap. They were about being in command. Hit that subscribe button. Let's count down 20 forgotten 1950s housewife habits. Number 20. Planning the week before spending a dime. She did not shop and then decide what to cook. She decided first. On Sunday, you sit at the kitchen table, plan 7 suppers, and build the list from the plan. Nothing extra comes home. Nothing already home rots in the bin. A smart woman doing this in 2026 saves close to $80 a month in impulse buys and spoiled food. Ruth planned every meal on the back of an envelope, pencil scratching in the quiet after the children slept. In a decade before freezers were common, a wasted ingredient was money gone for good. It was not rigid. It was the difference between running the kitchen and letting it run you. Number 19. Cooking from scratch, not from a box. The packaged mix cost 3 times the raw flour inside it. So you kept flour, not pancake mix. Beans, not canned soup. A pound of dried beans ran under $2 and made a week of suppers. The boxed version cost 5 times that for the same food. Ruth's kitchen smelled of yeast every Tuesday and Friday, a smell her children would chase for the rest of their lives. Her own mother had fed a family through the Depression on flour, beans, and knowing how. It was not more work than it was worth. It was the same food at 1/3 of the price. Number 18. The mending basket by the chair. A loose button did not mean a new shirt. The basket sat beside the evening chair, and while the radio murmured, her needle moved. A 10-cent spool of thread saved a $20 coat over and over. Ruth mended by lamplight with the console radio low, the same half hour every night, the pile shrinking as the programs played. Her whole generation could not throw away what still had wear in it. Their hands refused. It was not drudgery. It was a wardrobe that lasted twice as long for the cost of a spool. Number 17. Drying the wash on a line. The wet laundry went out on a line strung across the yard, sheets snapping in the wind. No machine ate electricity by the load. An electric dryer is among the hungriest appliances in any home, easily $15 a month to run. Ruth pinned the wash before breakfast, the cold clothes pins stinging her fingers in February, and never once considered another way. Her mother had dried laundry on a line because there was no other way to do it. It was not a hardship. It was $15 a month kept, instead of burned into warm air. Number 16. Cleaners from 3 cheap things. The cabinet did not need a dozen bottles. It needed vinegar, baking soda, and a bar of soap. Vinegar and water shined the windows and cut the grease. Baking soda scoured any pan. A gallon of vinegar ran $3 and lasted months, where branded sprays cost $4 each and emptied in weeks. Ruth's whole house smelled faintly of vinegar on cleaning day, sharp and clean, close to $40 a month, saved over store products. Her grandmother had cleaned exactly this way long before a spray bottle existed. The chemistry never changed. Only the marketing did, and she refused to pay for it. Number 15. Buying staples in bulk, portioning at home. The small package always cost more per ounce than the big one. So you bought flour, rice, and oats in the largest sack, then filled glass jars on the pantry shelf. 50 pounds of flour ran half the per-pound price of the little bag. Ruth's pantry was a wall of labeled jars in her own hand, the row of them the closest thing she had to a savings account she could see. Her family had always bought the big sack because the small one was a rich woman's convenience. It was not hoarding, it was buying the food once at the honest price.
Before we go on, I made something special for you. Guides for people like us who still believe the old ways mattered. They're the forgotten money habits our grandparents lived by, tricks that could save you thousands a year. But this knowledge is disappearing, and once it's gone for good. I've put together 2 books for you plus a free bonus. Imagine how much you could save over the next year by starting today. Scan the QR code on screen now or click the link below. I'll wait.
Number 14. The price book in her head. She knew what everything cost, so no store could fool her. You keep a small notebook of the regular prices of what you buy most, and once you know them, a fake sale can't touch you. A special is only a deal if you know the real number under it. Ruth kept her prices in a dime notebook in her apron pocket, and she could spot a phantom sale from across the aisle. Her mother had carried every staples price in her memory and could not be tricked at any counter. It was not obsessive. It was the one thing that made every marketing trick in the store useless. Here is what the world quietly took from women like Ruth, and it was not only the money. A 1950s housewife was, in every real sense, the chief financial officer of the home. She ran a budget, a supply chain, a repair shop, and a small factory, all from one kitchen. Then, somewhere in the decades after, all of that skill got renamed. It stopped being called competence and started being called old-fashioned. The companies that wanted the household's money spent 50 years teaching her daughters that this work was beneath a modern woman, that you buy your way out of it now. But buying your way out was never freedom, it was just a bill. The skill was never the poor woman's burden, it was the smart woman's edge, and it still is. Number 13. Cloth instead of paper. Paper towels, paper napkins, disposable wipes, all money bought to be thrown away. So the napkins were cloth, washed and reused for years. The counter met a rag cut from a worn shirt. A roll of paper towels runs $2 or $3 and vanishes in days. A stack of rags costs nothing. Ruth kept a rag drawer that was the afterlife of every shirt her family had outgrown, each one a garment earning its keep one last time. Her generation would not pay for something built to be discarded in a single use. It was not primitive. It was refusing to buy the same thing forever when one cloth did it for years. Number 12. Preserving the cheap season for the dear one. When produce was in season and dirt cheap, she put it up for winter. You buy the summer harvest when it is plentiful and low-priced, then freeze it or can it for the months the same food costs triple. A flat of August berries, frozen, feeds you in January at a quarter of the winter price. Ruth's cellar shelves held rows of jars glowing red and gold, the whole summer sealed in glass, and she could read a hard year coming by how full they were. Her mother had canned 300 jars a season to carry the family through. It was not a quaint hobby. It was buying food at its lowest price and eating it at its highest. Number 11. Making what she would otherwise buy. Bread, yogurt, jam, broth, all of it came from her own kitchen. A few cents of flour and yeast became 2 loaves. The store loaf ran $1 or more. Homemade yogurt cost a fraction of the cup at the market from the same milk. Ruth made most of what her family ate and saved, close to $50 a month doing it, her hands in dough before the sun was fully up. Her grandmother had made everything because there was nothing to buy and no money to buy it. It was not busy work. It was turning cheap raw ingredients into food the store charged a fortune to hand back. Number 10. 1. List 1 trip, 1 time through the doors. She did not run to the store 4 times a week. She went once. You plan, you list, you go once, and you buy only what is written down. Every extra trip is a fresh chance to spend on things you never meant to. Ruth walked to the market once a week with a folded list and a fixed sum of cash, and she came home with exactly what the paper said. Her mother had shopped this way from necessity because a wasted trip cost bus fare she could not spare. It was not willpower. It was giving the store 1 chance to tempt you each week instead of 4. Number 9. Saving what everyone else throws away. The glass jars, the rubber bands, the bread bags, the bacon grease, none of it was trash. Jars became storage and canning vessels. Bags became sandwich wrap. Grease went into a can by the stove and fried tomorrow's supper. Ruth kept a grease can on the back of the range, dull silver and always half full, the smell of it, the smell of every breakfast she ever cooked. Her generation looked at a glass jar and saw a tool, not garbage. It was not eccentric. It was seeing value in what the modern world trained everyone to pay to replace. Number 8. Entertaining at home, not paying to go out. A gathering did not mean a restaurant bill. It meant a coffee cake, a fresh pot, a deck of cards, and the neighbors around the kitchen table. A homemade dessert and a pot of coffee ran a couple of dollars. An evening out cost a week of groceries. Ruth hosted every Friday, the kitchen loud and warm and smelling of cinnamon, the most sought-after table on the block. Her mother's whole social life had happened around a kitchen table because that was free. It was not lesser. It was a full life for the cost of a cake. Now go back to the winter of 1958, because this is where Ruth's story turns. The plant put her husband on half hours for 4 months. $62 a week became $31. Every other house on the street started buying on credit. The new washer, the furniture on time, the grocery tab that rolled from month to month. Ruth did not. She had the cellar full of jars. She had the flour bought cheap in the fall. She had the coffee can behind the flour, untouched. The family ate 3 meals a day that whole winter and never borrowed $1. The neighbors who financed their way through spent the next 3 years paying it back with interest. Ruth spent that spring the way she spent every spring, even quiet, ahead. The habits were not about pinching pennies. They were the wall between her family and the fear in every other kitchen on that street. Number 7. Setting aside for the bills she knew were coming. The winter heating bill, the property tax, the children's coats. None of it was a surprise, so none of it was a crisis. You set aside a small amount each week toward the expenses you know are coming, so the big bill is already paid before it lands. Ruth kept small envelopes for taxes, heat, and clothing, each one filling a little every week in the drawer by the sink. Her generation planned for the lean months before they came, because being blindsided meant going without. It was not complicated. It turned every dreaded bill into one already handled. Number 6, fixing it before replacing it. A wobbly chair, a dripping tap, a cracked handle, none of it meant a purchase. She kept a small kit and fixed what broke. A 10-cent washer stopped a leak. A plumber would charge $100 to touch. Ruth's husband kept a coffee can of salvaged screws and washers in the cellar, and between the two of them almost nothing in that house went unmended. Her generation lived by one rule: use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without. Replacing what could be repaired was the one luxury they refused. It was not stubbornness. It was a 10-minute fix standing between her and a $100 bill. Number 5, making gifts instead of buying them. A present was made, not purchased. A knitted scarf, a jar of preserves, a batch of cookies, a card the children drew. Each carried more than any store-bought thing and cost a fraction. A handmade gift ran a few dollars in materials against 20 or 30 at the counter. Ruth's presents came wrapped in brown paper and smelled of the kitchen, and no one who received one ever thought it was cheap. Her mother's generation saw a store-bought gift as the lazy choice, proof you had not troubled yourself. It was not cheap. It was more personal for a tenth of the price. Number 4, water and coffee, not bottled and branded. The refrigerator held no cases of water and no crates of soda. You drank from the tap and you made coffee by the pot. A case of water runs $5 for what the faucet gives free. A soda habit drains $1 a day and returns nothing but sugar. Ruth kept a glass pitcher of cold water in the icebox and a percolator always ready on the stove, and saved close to $40 a month in today's terms. Her generation drank tap water their whole lives and never thought twice. It was not going without. It was refusing to pay a premium for water she already paid for once. Number 3, cash she could see, not credit she could not. She cashed the check and split it into labeled envelopes before a single bill was paid. Rent, groceries, utilities, savings, each got its share first. When the grocery envelope was empty, the spending stopped. No overdraft, no borrowing from next week. This was the backbone of Ruth's whole system. The envelopes fanned across the kitchen table every Friday night. The cash counted out by hand. The card was invented to make spending painless. The cash was made to keep it honest. The envelope never lied. That was its genius. Number 2, waiting 2 days before buying what she didn't need. Before any purchase that was not food, rent, or medicine, she waited 48 hours. If she still wanted the thing after 2 days, she bought it. If she had forgotten it, she had her answer. Most wants did not survive the wait. Ruth held this rule so firmly that her children grew up believing every object in the house had earned its place there. Her own mother, who had lived through the crash of 1929, never spent in a hurry again as long as she lived. It cost nothing and took nothing. It only gave every impulse time to prove whether it was ever real. Number 1, spending less than came in and putting the difference away first. This is the whole list in one line and the plainest habit of all. No system, no trick, just the quiet discipline of spending a little less than the paycheck brought and setting that little aside before anything else. Ruth did it with the coffee can behind the flour. $4 a week, every week, hidden where no one would spend it. Her children thought it held buttons. When her husband retired 31 years later, Ruth opened that can at the kitchen table and set what it had become on the wood, the last payment on the house, made in full in cash. The deed came back with their name on it and no banks. The amount each week was almost nothing. The order was everything. It went in first, always first, never whatever was left. None of these habits required a big income, an advisor, or a single dollar these women did not already hold. They required attention, the willingness to look at money plainly, without shame and without fantasy. The generation that ran households through hard years understood something the modern world keeps trying to forget. Comfort is not the same as security. Convenience is not the same as freedom. The ability to buy anything you want is worthless beside the ability to make, mend, and manage almost everything yourself. Ruth Halloran was not poor, and she was not simple. She was the sharpest financial manager her family ever had. She ran a home of 6 on $62 a week, filled a cellar, mended by lamplight, and hid $4 a week in a coffee can until it brought back the roof over their heads. On her street, she was not the exception. She was the ordinary woman, doing ordinary things the world was foolish enough to forget. The smart woman in 2026 is simply the one who remembers.